All right, guys, welcome back into another NFL DFS video. My name is Eric Paulzine with 9 to 5 Sports. If you guys enjoy this coverage, make sure to like and subscribe. That does help out the channel a lot. Going to be covering the ownership leverage here for week 7. Okay, always, I want to touch on that. I am talking about ownership leverage. Okay, I'm not just talking about ownership just to talk about ownership. I'm trying to give you guys actionable information. Okay, so let's get into the breakdown for the ownership. So I'm going to go position by position. Let's start off with the quarterbacks. So the highest projected owned quarterbacks on the slate are actually Geno Smith. What? All right, this I should mention. I am not looking at ownership prior to this video. Okay, this is a Friday afternoon ownership talk. Okay, this can change throughout the week. And I guess now, okay, this will change throughout the weekend. Okay, for the most part, the players that are typically higher owned, at least by Friday afternoon, are still going to be the players that are high owned. Okay, it does change, okay? But the process and the information that we're going over is still typically relevant depending on when you're watching it, you know, even come Sunday morning. But Geno Smith, like, I have a tough time with that. The highest projected owned quarterback on the slate, that is strange. Then Justin Herbert, that does make some sense. Okay, Justin Herbert, throwing the ball a ton. Lamar Jackson, 10%, I can agree with that. Dak Prescott, makes sense to take the risk there. Just interesting stuff here, guys. Let's see. Let's look at the ownership leverage. Which quarterbacks are ranking as the best leverage? Get out of here, Russell Wilson. I do not trust that. He is banged up. He's got that hamstring injury. Don't like that. Patrick Mahomes, under owned. That makes sense going against the Niners. People are worried. That game does have a high over and under. I would agree with that. And then we got 3 quarterbacks that have a great matchup that should be able to hit value, and that's why they're ranking out well leverage-wise, okay? You look at the price point, you look at the players around them, you look at the ownership around them, you look at their projection, given the matchup, it makes sense that they're popping in, and I would actually jump on these 3 right here. Aaron Rodgers, I've touched on this a decent amount. If you watch my coverage throughout the other videos, the ownership, or not the ownership, the stacking video and the game-by-game breakdown. Actually, the game-by-game breakdown will be posted after this, but still. Aaron Rodgers has been actually solid DFS wise. You look at his last 4 weeks prior to last week, about 17 DK points in all 4 straight games. And they were all tough matchups. And you can say the Jets and New York Giants are tough matchups as well. Given the fact that this is by far his best matchup of the season thus far, like he should be able to get 3 more DK points and get to 20 DK points. Okay. So I think he's going to be a strong play. That's a great ownership leverage spot. Jacoby Myers, not exactly a play that you love, but in GPPs, I will be chasing that in some game stacks with Amari Cooper, with DPJ. It does make sense there. And then Davis Mills, also another guy that gets his by far best matchup of the season thus far. Brandon Cooks is still there. Nico Collins is developing into a player. The defenses now have to respect Dameon Pierce on the ground, so that should lead to more efficient passing by Davis Mills. All 3 of those quarterbacks are players that I would like to get on a little bit more. You know, Joe Burrow, I like as a play as well. As the week has gone on, he's been a consistent producer, gets a good matchup. I like him as a play. Is it just the price point for Aaron Rodgers? Is that what people are scared about? I don't get why you would play Derek Carr over Aaron Rodgers, though. That's just strange. All right, let's move on to the running backs. So the 3 highest owned running backs on the slate do make sense. Josh Jacobs, once again, if you guys watched my other coverage, You've heard me talk about Josh Jacobs. A lot of the times I like to refer to players as checking all the boxes, especially in golf. Well, Josh Jacobs is coming in checking all the boxes. You look at price point, check. You look at ownership, well, ownership's high, but check. You look at matchup, check. You look at usage, check. You look at snap share, check. You look at getting use in the passing game, check. Like he's just checking all the box. No good backup, check. Like he's checking all the boxes for a running back that should be able to go off and have a great game. Yes, he's high owned, but we can see like ownership leverage wise, this is coming out still as green. That means he's properly owned and maybe a little bit under owned still. So yes, Josh Jacobs is a play that I like a lot, and so does everyone else. It makes sense. Kenneth Walker, probably starting to get a little over-owned there. Okay, getting into the orange there. That's like cautious, but he did look good on film, guys. He looks so good, okay? From like week 1 to last week, I don't know if there's a player that looked that much improved. He was so good last week. So I get the 19% ownership, and I get the price point too. Like, it's tough not to be on Kenneth Walker at 5.8, especially given the matchup with the LA Chargers, a matchup in which you've been able to go off and really have a strong running back against. Unless you're Nathaniel Hackett, where you bench your best running back in favor of a practice squad running back and you can't score a touchdown. But we won't talk about that. I'm annoyed by the Broncos offense. Then looking at Austin Eckler, that ownership makes sense. And then we get into some strange ones. Breece Hall, Joe Mixon, Saquon Barkley. I'm going to go by salary to point out why those are strange. So Breece Hall, priced right by Dameon Pierce. Dameon Pierce gets a better matchup and has been just as good. It's like people forgot how good Dameon Pierce has been. And I'm not saying Beast Hall, I'm trying to make something work there. It didn't exactly work. Has looked good as well, guys. I'm not trying to say he hasn't looked good, okay? Brees Hall has been good. Dameon Pierce has been good. But like the difference, like about almost 10% difference there, it shouldn't be that way. I would actually take Dameon Pierce over Brees Hall this week. That's strange to me, especially because Michael Carter is still a thing there. Like Michael Carter can easily steal a goal line touchdown or whatever. That's strange to me that he's that high owned in a tough matchup against Denver. Like Denver is a good defense. You do not want to be messing with Denver's defense. Maybe eventually now, maybe with the offense being terrible, I could see that, I guess. But the game over and under for this game is so low. It's like 38.5. There's not going to be that much scoring on it. So that is strange to me. And then yes, Joe Mixon at 14%. It's like, this seems to always happen, especially at the start of the weeks where like people are like, oh, Joe Mixon's at a cheap price point, getting a ton of snaps, getting a lot of usage. Like he's bound to have a really big game here shortly. I think that's the thought process. And I don't disagree with that if that's the thought process. Like, yeah, he is cheap. He should be a safe play. I get it. Just when you like dive down to the slate, like I would much rather be on Leonard Fournette. They're like double-digit favorites, guys. And like Leonard Fournette has been consistent. He saw a lot of snaps last week, a lot more than 2 weeks ago. He should be a stud on this slate. He should be higher owned than Joe Mixon. Same thing for Saquon Barkley. Should be higher owned than Joe Mixon. I expect that to get corrected. And then I do just need to call out Kenyon Drake, guys. Okay, this is something that's going to be updated here shortly. I would expect both his projections and also his ownership, projected ownership. He might be... Now, he probably won't be the highest owned player in the slate because we do still have to worry about Justice Hill. But with J.K. Dobbins out, Kenyon Drake is in a smash spot. He gets a matchup with the Cleveland Browns, a matchup that you've been targeting a lot via running backs, or you should be, because the Cleveland Browns rush defense has been terrible. Rayondre Stevenson almost had 3 rushing touchdowns against them. They did have a nice little goal line stand against them, but 2 rushing touchdowns for Stevenson. Had a great game. I think Drake could easily go for 100 rushing yards again, could score a touchdown, but we do still have to factor in Justice Hill. I think the worst outcome would be Justice Hill and Kenyon Drake splitting the workload and then like splitting it like 50-50. I think it'd be 60% Drake, 40% Justice Hill, because Justice Hill has looked good. I don't want to like downplay Justice Hill because he has like, this is his best season thus far. But Drake at this price point, 5.1 in a smash spot with the top running back out. And he's also been the lead running back the last 2 weeks. If this ownership stays low, jump on it. Okay. All right. Looking at who are the highest projected owned receivers on the slate. CeeDee Lamb, that makes sense. That makes so much sense. I get it. Great matchup. Getting targeted a ton. Should be a super safe play. I get that. Tyler Lockett, banged up though. Tyler Lockett, this would switch. And honestly, it might just switch to DK Metcalf if he sits. Sat out on Thursday's practice. Haven't gotten the Friday update yet. But we could see that change. That's interesting. Like, I get it. But like, where are people just game stacking that game like crazy? Because the Chargers defense and the Seattle's defense is actually pretty good. But now we've seen Kenneth Walker, Tyler Lockett, and also Geno Smith all be high owned. And Austin Eckler as well. Where's Mike Williams here? I would have thought like Justin Herbert and Mike Williams would be higher projected on than too, if that's what the thought process from people. Interesting. I kind of expect that to get corrected. I know he's cheap. It makes sense. Okay. If he does sit, guys, I do just want to point out Marquise Goodwin as well. He could be someone that is a nice, strong value for you if Tyler Lockett sits. Deebo Samuel does make sense. This could be his last like really safe week with CMC there. I do expect CMC to take away some usage from Deebo as the season progresses. But this is a great matchup against KC. Super safe cash play. Makes sense. T. Higgins. I love this as well. This makes so much sense. Good job. Honestly, guys. Like, oh, man. Industry is doing well. Like, literally, my favorite cash plays are all up here. My favorite safe plays are all up here. T. Higgins at a cheap price point in a pretty strong matchup. A matchup in which Brandon Ayuk, the receiver number 2 in his offense, just went off. Obviously, T. Higgins, receiver number 2 in his offense, could easily go off. Been a stud in games in which he's been fully healthy or been able to finish. So I like him. That makes sense. Drake London, I just want to wait a week. That's probably too high for me. Mike Evans, I'd rather play Chris Godwin, but it makes sense. Keenan Allen, I think he's going to sit, and then we probably just switch and Mike Williams at 11% projected ownership. That's probably what's going to happen. Amari Cooper, like this all makes sense. Let's try to find the leverage plays. All right. So, okay. So none of the higher owned or higher salary players are that high owned on this slate. That's what we're seeing here. So they're all going to be under owned. They're all going to rank out as strong leverage plays because, well, they do have a high projection. They are typically solid DFS plays. So they are pretty consistent. So like Devontae Adams ranking out as the top receiver leverage play, that does make a lot of sense. At 6% projected ownership, that makes sense. Jamar Chase in a great matchup at 6% projected ownership, that makes a lot of sense. St. Brown at only 3%. People forget that he was a stud for basically the past calendar year. One tough matchup and people don't like him. That's strange to me. I kind of expect that to get corrected. The Cowboys defense is not one you're worried about. Mike Williams, once again, I think that'll get corrected. Brandon Cooks will probably get up there a little bit more. If it doesn't, please jump on that, guys. Volume's been there. matchups there this week. Snap counts are there. Bateman, I don't like. Don't play him. Ayuk, you could play, I guess. Cooper, yeah, strong plays. Okay, we get it now. And then tight end wise, guys, typically speaking, once again, the tight ends are always popping up a decent amount leverage wise. Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews makes sense. They're highly consistent fantasy producers, those two especially, and they're typically not priced at the price point they should be, given how consistent they are, given how much better of plays they are as the other tight end plays around them, or just in general the other plays around their price point. So that's typically why they rank out as the top leverage plays. If you've been taking advantage of that this year, you've been doing really well. Heck, you could be running out 2 tight ends and you've been doing well. So those are the 2 highest projected owned tight ends on the slate, except for Greg Dulcich, who, yeah, he should be the highest owned tight end on the slate. I love him as a play. Great value. Okay, 2.5 minimum price on DraftKings. Came in, played 74% of the snaps, came in, scored a touchdown. They love him there. He's about the only player I like for the Denver Broncos this week. That makes a lot of sense. Cade Otton would be a strong pivot play from him. Saw 90% of the snaps last time Cameron Brate was out. Cameron Brate is out again this week. The Bucs are highly favored to win, so he would need to score kind of early, I think. But he could. I like him as a play as well. Revenge game, Evan Ingram, potentially you could go with if you want to. But yeah, that's it. Tight ends typically don't need to touch on too much. All right, that's all I have for you guys for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I do just want to give a quick thank you to our video sponsor, Sports Battle app, which is a daily fantasy sports prop-based app. You guys should be familiar with them by now. The promo code to join is going to be 9TO5. Get $5 cash back on a deposit of over $50 or more. Take advantage of that if you guys are someone that does play prop bets out there or props at all. It's free money right now. You know, you make your first deposit, they are going to already match it, 100% match. Okay, so take advantage of that free money that's out there. And also, you know, it's fun. You know, you're going to get your money's worth. And then the second one is going to be Stat Hero. Stat Hero is a daily fantasy sports website that has 3 different game types: Survivor, Pick'em, and then my favorite, Head-to-Head, where you have to beat a lineup that they have out there. And I like that because you know the constraints, you know what the goal is there. So I like that as well. Both great sponsors. Both check them out, guys. But as always, guys, that's all I have for you. Let's have a good slate. And as always, let's keep cashing.